Hey Codesies, welcome back. Today, we're building multi-step AI workflows with prompt chaining. Prompt chaining links multiple LLM calls together. Each LLM's output becomes the input for the next. This lets us tackle bigger, more complex tasks. Why chain prompts? Complex tasks often need several steps. Chaining breaks these down. It helps manage context, keeping each LLM call focused. This makes the overall workflow clearer and easier to debug. Imagine summarizing a long article, then rephrasing that summary for a specific audience. First, one prompt summarizes, its bullet point output feeds into a second prompt to rephrase it. When do you use chaining versus one big prompt? Use chaining for truly multi step tasks or when you need different LLM behaviors at each stage. A simple complex prompt works for tasks that can be solved in one go, even if it's a long prompt. Chaining adds structure. Now let's clarify the relationship between chain of thought, react, and prompt chaining. First, understand the hierarchy. Chain of thought is the base technique, a single LLM call with step-by-step internal reasoning. Remember Module 2, Lesson 6. React, which we learned about in Module 3, Lesson 5, is actually a subcategory of chain of thought. It uses COT's step-by-step reasoning, but adds the ability to interact with external tools through the thought-action-observation pattern. Prompt chaining, what we're learning about today, is a completely separate technique. It's about using multiple LLM calls in sequence, where each call's output becomes the next call's input. And here's the important point. Within each step of a prompt chain, you can actually use chain of thought or react. So these techniques can actually work together. Use COT for pure reasoning problems, react when you need external tools or are building agents, and prompt chaining when you need different behavior at each stage of a complex workflow. Choose the right technique or combination of techniques for your task. This lesson directly prepares you for a prompt optimizer milestone. You'll add prompt chaining functionality, allowing your tool to run multiple step optimization workflows. To activate prompt chaining, we need to change this variable enable prompt chaining from false to true in the backend and the front end. All right, so first let's go to the backend slash main.py, and I'm going to just copy this just to find it easier. Backend main.py, find that, change it from false to true. Let's also go to the front end app.js, find that, change it to true. Be careful that in JavaScript you have to use lowercase, but in Python I would use uppercase T. Right, I could also just remove this altogether. Nice. All right, now let's go back to our README, and I'm going to actually check that. Alt-C, now it's checked. Let's look at how this is actually implemented. The prompt chaining workflow function defines our four-step chain. First, analyze. This analyzes the prompt and stores the result. Step 2 takes in the analysis and see how it says based on this analysis, and then generates some suggestions. Step 3 takes in those suggestions to create an optimized version, and step 4 produces a final polished output. Notice how each step's output becomes the input to the next. That's the chain. Finally, all four results are combined into one structured response. When you enable chaining and send a prompt, this function runs all four steps sequentially. Now let's actually run it to see the code. I'm going to go inside CD and backend, and then inside the backend and inside the virtual environment that I've created, I'm going to run python main.py. Now that the server is running, I'm going to go to the front end, right click, open with live server. Now that it's opened, you're going to see at the bottom a checkbox enable prompt chaining workflow. If I enable this and send to the prompt, like this for example, write about AI. All right, now let's actually take a look at what we have here. The analysis, suggestions, the optimized prompt, and the final review. Notice how each section in the response corresponds to one step from our workflow function. Applications usually hide behind the scene process, but in our case, we just show it. Now let me actually show you something really cool. In our usual playground, instead of creating a prompt, I'm going to click on the agent builder. There's a lot of workflows that you can follow. Let's actually click on one of them. How about the customer service one? Alright, now let's actually take a look at this. So here we have the start, which is the initial prompt, input as text, and the guardrail, which is a step to check if the input of the user is following some specific rules. And then here you have an agent, classify the user intents into one of the following categories: return item, cancel subscription, or get information. And then depending on which one the user wants, depending on the case, we call a specific LLM. For example, if it's a return, we're going to offer a replacement device with free shipping. If it's a retention, we're going to do a different prompt. If it's an information, a third prompt. Notice how all of them have access to the history so they can see the steps before them as well. And depending on the user approves or not the return, then we end with both cases. Either return the status message or the help message. Now, this is one workflow. I encourage you to actually go back, check for all the other workflows that are there, and maybe build your own. This unlocks a lot of things. Mixing the workflows with other functions will give you a lot of power to automate a lot of things. Think about what you can automate with such workflows. We're going to dig deeper into agents and how to build them in course 4 of the series, so stay tuned. Prompt chaining is key for building robust AI applications. It lets you break down big problems into manageable sequential steps. Next, we'll explore multimodal prompting, combining text with images. Keep building, codesies.